And today's big league show here on Sportsworld has a real state of origin flavour. We'll speak to Martin Bella, the best forward out on the paddock. Well, maybe Gary Larson. What a performance from him on debut. Also, Ben Elias, the New South Wales captain under siege, will be our special guest here in the Sportsworld studios. And I tell you, Queensland did it without one little redhead who had an awesome game at Lang Park yesterday. Paul Vautin, good on you.
Yeah, went all right for an old bloke, John, but it's been a big week for the Maroons, winning on Wednesday night and the Roosters getting up yesterday, but we'll see all the action later in the show. Steve
Mortimer, the Blues tactics, what did you think of them?
Well, we'll talk a little bit later on, but you know, what price is the value of a blue jumper, I like to say.
Roy Masters, you've come up with a team that'll belt Queensland in your opinion.
Yeah, a few positional changes, Harks, but they're back where they belong.
Do you think that the bottom line problem is that New South Wales has an embarrassment of riches? Everyone says that the Queenslanders pick the same sort of side and show faith and pick teams either on form or not in form. New South Wales has so many players to pick from, that's why you can make the odd selection blunder.
We trick ourselves up. Too many complicated game plans as far as the selectors are concerned.
Yeah, remembering, of course, though, that there wasn't that much criticism of the New South Wales side when it was picked. They were our best players at the time. Not too many people wanted to bag it, and now they only get beaten by 2 points.
Not true, Harks.
And we're all giving it to them.
We were talking about specialists in positions. We were saying that at the time. Wishart should be on the wing. That was said 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. I made some comments before the game. In fact, I tipped Queensland. So, but I'm just saying for the most part, people have praised the team and then given it to them. And should we really talk? No, we won't. Pat Welsh, you're not really here, are we?
I'm beside a fellow Queenslander.
Yeah,
happy to be here and proud to be here.
What about you? You never show your face on this program. And there's an aberration occurs on Wednesday night.
I thought it was opportune to come down this weekend.
And you turn up.
Just in case you needed to ask any questions about the origin. And what about you? You were quite happy to claim me last Wednesday night when you were tipping Queensland all and sundry at Lang Park.
Yeah, well, I just thought they'd get up. I think you get to that stage with Queensland. How many times does New South Wales go up there? You know, rated favourites. If you look through the history of the state of origin, the times that New South Wales have won at Lang Park are the times that they've been told, but as they go up there and in the newspaper they're telling them that they're going to get belted. You did it. You guys went up there as underdogs, Steve, and you won in '85. Whenever we go up there as the favourites, we get nutted.
Because you don't win games in scrapbooks, John, that's why. You win them through your heart. And
ability-wise,
New South Wales probably should have won the other night. But hey, the old big tickers of the Maroons.
I think Fatty's pretty right there, Harks. You know, there were a few scrapbooks on the arms of a few of the guys in blue jumpers there, but something that Queensland showed on Wednesday night is nothing new to me, nothing new to Fatty Vautin over there, is humble and hungry, and that's what the Queenslanders showed on last Wednesday night.
And I guess that for the most part, I didn't agree with the Man of the Match award. I thought Gary Larson was the Man of the Match, but for the most part, Wally Lewis had a point to prove. You spent about a week with him before the game.
Sure, he was. You know, he copped a lot of flack in the couple of weeks leading up there, and I think Lewis coming into this match was certainly a player under siege.
Every champion in sport must face that moment when it's time to call it quits. For Wally Lewis, that moment has yet to arrive. The great man had absorbed all the knocks, both on and off the field, to once again leave the hallowed Lang Park turf as Queensland's favourite football son. But the week of pressure had taken its toll, despite one of the Kings' greatest ever triumphs.
Yeah, it hasn't been much fun, mate, and to see them sitting up there, especially the two boys, that makes me feel pretty good.
It meant the world. It meant everything to show all those critics, those people that have just been putting him down for weeks and weeks. What a great champion he really is.
The Southern press were forced to backpedal in today's papers. It wasn't the first time, and no doubt it won't be the last. It didn't take long for ecstatic Wally Lewis fans to get their message across on the Gold Coast. First Light this morning revealed this for sale sign at Mermaid Beach had been touched up a little during the night. Amazingly, Wally was back at work at radio station CFM on the Gold Coast at the crack of dawn this morning, giving a one-eyed view on last night's Titanic struggle. Lewis only had one can of beer last night, but nevertheless, after only 3 hours sleep, to show up on time for work was another miracle.
Well, probably if it wasn't payday, I wouldn't be here, but I certainly needed a jackhammer to get me out of bed this morning.
And after that long, hard week in camp with the rest of the team, you can hardly blame the King for breaking his diet.
Yeah, I demolished 3/4 of a packet of Monte Carlos and really gave those a hiding, and that's actually been the first time I've eaten them for about a week. I've been on all the health foods while we've been in camp, all the salads and that sort of stuff, so it was nice to finally get to have a pig out.
He's back in full training though, John, I can tell you, because he's at Lang Park yesterday. Fatty, wasn't he, on the health foods again?
I ran off at half-time, feeling pretty tired, entered through the gate there at Lang Park, and there's Wally standing there. He said, "Fatty." He looked over, he's got a carton with 3 hot dogs, 4 pies and 5 cartons of chips. Said, "You want some?" Thanks, Wal, that's what I need.
But I think, John, he was under a lot of pressure, especially up there, probably more so than you noticed down in Sydney. There were a lot of the papers writing about him and said basically that he was finished. And,
but the script was written for him. That's exactly what Wally needed. I mean, he does rival Darren Hinch as a human headline. Said it before, and he loves all that, Wally, and it gave him some incentive to go out there and go crash. And I mean, you just don't write off champions. Simple as that.
He sat in the Queensland in the Lang Park grandstand too for a good quarter of an hour on his own before the game, getting a big psychological feel up. He just gets his inspiration from the crowd, I thought, and you could see him dragging all that energy into him.
All right, where's your team?
The team that'll beat Queensland. I've selected a team that I believe does, to some extent, put players back in the positions where they truly belong. Eddinghausen did begin his career as a fullback, and he's got tremendous thrust from back there. I believe that we've got to have a finisher like Wishart. His positional play is outstanding. Johns can take the ball up from dummy half and is a very strong player.
Well, he's one of our best on Wednesday night anyway.
Absolutely, he was probably our best forward. Or second best forward. O'Connor and McGaw, of course, have got great penetrative skills and at the same time combine well with each other. Daly is a third centre. He can take the second pass off the ruck, third
You've
pass.
got rid of Cliff Lyons, a test.
Yeah, I have, because I've taken the attitude that some players in those state of origin type situations do tend to get a little bit intimidated. We can't afford to lose this particular game, so I've gone for players who I feel don't tend to get over it. I know you're going to say that Cliff Lyons...
And you punted both second rowers.
I haven't even got to them yet, yes?
It's uppercut time, Roy. 5/8s don't perform unless their forwards are doing the job up front. The Blues forwards didn't do the job. Cliffy Lyons, for the first 20 minutes, when the game was still in the balance, he was set the joint on fire. They could have been ahead 18-0 after 20 minutes, but thanks to Cliffy. And then the forwards started to go backwards, and that was the end of the game.
Well, there's another three-quarters of the game there. You've got a fellow like Daly who plays like an extra forward anyway.
All right, you've also dropped both second rowers. If the forwards aren't
doing it, he can do it.
You've also dropped both second rowers.
Well, let's come to them. We haven't even got them up on... Did we come back to them?
Yes.
Okay, well, there we go. Okay, well, Alexander is the best player for New South Wales as far as I'm concerned. He was superb. The days are gone where he's intimidated by
Chris Johns is the best player for New South Wales.
Eddinghausen was their best player.
But Alexander played tremendous, yes?
Alexander's, and he's also his kicking game is outstanding. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, you've got tremendous mobility in the back row, and you've also got forwards who will take the ball up. Lazarus and Sargent will get yardage like Bella does.
Listen to us three over here. We've got those two cane toads over here. Steady she sails up there in Queensland. Here we are, want to chop and change the side. I say keep the same side. They stuck with it in the first state of origin. Stick with it. If we chop and change all the time, we're inviting for another defeat off these blokes over there. Stick with the same side,
we're
I
not
say.
chopping and changing much at all. We're just putting players in their correct positions.
You're getting rid of
it's not as though all those guys are foreign to each other. Wishart played with the state of origin team last year. Sargent was one of the best players on the Kangaroo Tour. They know each other.
But to the same side, it didn't have the intensity the other night. Sure, you could have been in front 18-0 after 20 minutes. You weren't, thanks largely to the efforts of Paul Hoff. The second half, I mean, New South Wales didn't deserve to get that close to Queensland.
OK, good point. I'll give you that. But, OK, we lost by 2 points. But let me just say this. There wasn't too many arguments when the first side was picked. OK, that was the side, and we thought that a couple of changes could have happened. But now is a terrific opportunity to motivate these guys. Listen, fellas, you're given another chance. Let's get it out why we went wrong. Let's get it out together, what we want to do it for each other. Do we want to do it for ourselves, for each other, and for New South Wales? And I think that we can really add a lot of motivation to that 13 or that 17 that were originally picked.
Well, the first bloke they should pick, there was an argument for him before the first game. It was Mario Fennick, and now he should be considered a certainty to come into this side. He's a fine leader, and he's playing a football that he hasn't played in the last few years. He's playing out of his tree, and he should be the first New South Wales forward pick.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, just in my opinion, I believe they crucify themselves, mate. You know, I mean, you just can't go and change 3 or 4 blokes and, you know, don't expect them to blend straight away, you know. I mean, the guys, you know, we only got beat 6-4, mate, you know. You know, the Knights are out, I mean, because we're hot favourites, you know, but, you know, as a game turned out, we didn't win it. I mean, fair enough, but, I mean, if you give every guy who went out there on Wednesday night a second chance, I'm sure they won't bloody let anyone down.
Yeah, that's Steve Mortimer's feeling exactly. I'm sure that's the feeling of the New South Wales captain, Ben Elias, who's heard all the Mario Fennick talk and would like to still have a C next to his name and a number 9 next to his name. Benny, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. It's always good to be here.
Mate, now, can you just do me a favour? Just humour someone for a couple of moments, will you? Because he thinks he's got the answer to New South Wales problems. There's something called the Masters degree that we do, and he wanted you to be here when he did it, all right? Roy?
Okay, the Master's degree. little Jaspers out there in football land, the most important time that you know when you've got a side absolutely done, when you know that they're gone, when you know that you've got them absolutely beaten, is those few minutes after half-time when the forwards fail to take the ball up. Now, here we'll see a situation coming up here now where New South, it's only about the third set of 6 for New South Wales, straight after half-time. Michael O'Connor's playing the ball. You've got Greg Alexander, the fullback, in dummy half. Going admittedly to the blind, the forwards are slowly coming back onside there now. There we have O'Connor taking the ball from dummy half. Ben Elias is the first forward to touch the ball, but as pivot and a flat-footed David Gillespie took the ball up. So we're now on about the 4th tackle. And there we have Chris Johns, the right winger, having to come all the way over to get in front of his post to take the ball up. So we've had 2 forwards touch the entire ball in a set of 6, only a few minutes after half-time in front of their own posts. That's when you know you got a side done. Thank you.
I hate to admit it, but you are dead set right there. There's only one cement head taking up and Benny and giving it to him. The forward should have got it in right from the outset, and they were taking it the wrong way anyway. They were taking up the blind, so the defence was getting ready to sort of corner him into towards the corner post. So certainly you are right there so far as the forwards. Where were they, Benny?
Well, it was played at a hectic pace, and you're probably spot on there, Roy. You know, it was a time where we would need the forward momentum to get out of trouble, but to Queensland's credit, they certainly, Lewis has pinned us in that right-hand corner and basically did it all night long, and they were down there very quickly, and it was very hard to get out of that little rut, but yeah, to Queensland's credit, you take your hat off to them.
Of course, you've got to cop all this criticism and you expect it when you're a football player, and hopefully it might have the same sort of effect it had on Wally and the Queenslanders when they were bagged before the game. You know that. But did you think that you didn't kick early enough? That there were times when you should have put the boot to the ball instead of trying to work it out from your own territory the way you did? Because they did have you hemmed in there, Benny. Yeah,
John, you know, I think for a good kicking game, you need momentum to go forward, and we just weren't getting that. Queensland weren't allowing us to do that. Now, you know, in all fairness to our kicking game, it was very difficult to get out of trouble. You know, especially kicking off your 10 to 15 yard line. You know, off your own try line. It is very, very difficult, believe you me. And under those circumstances up there, it was all that more difficult. They seemed to grow a leg. They had 2 points lead at the time, and they had a very, very strong and very parochial crowd behind them who were really driving them.
Roy, you also looked at a couple of statistics that we'll take a peek at now. Yeah. On hit-ups.
Yeah, it demonstrates the extent to which the wingers use the ball in hit-ups. Now, obviously, with O'Connor on 8 and Johns on 8, they're fairly good statistics if the team spent the entire game in its own quarter, where wingers do take the ball up. But that wasn't entirely the case in the second half, and you can see that they used the ball infinitely more than a lot of the forwards. Obviously, Guy only went on for the last 10 minutes, and Lazarus was also a replacement. But those figures there do demonstrate the unwillingness of the forwards to take the ball up, particularly early in the tackle count.
Do you think that you look good with that hat on? Is there any chance of you taking that off?
I certainly do, and I'm going to go back to an academic career when my football days are over.
Benny, there's a lot of people that say that's any
Benny, do you think we've downplayed Queensland's, dominance in this game? I mean, we're all sitting here having a shot at New South Wales. Do you think we haven't given them enough credit?
Yeah, I think you're right there, Paul. You know, it really was. It was a night where Queensland really rose themselves over and above their ordinary performances. I mean, I heard John earlier on in the program say the script was written there for Wally Lewis, and it certainly was. I mean, everybody was knocking him. Everybody. Even his wife got on the program afterwards and said, hey, listen, you know, we answered the critics, and, you know, for a man of his ability and his style of play, you know, you just never knocked him out. He paced himself brilliantly. He was the general who was delegating his work rate to his forwards, and he was getting there doing a fine job with the kick in and getting his troops to chase down there and corner our blokes. Yeah, you know, Graham Lowe certainly had them all primed up for the underdog status. Lang Park, Langer and Lewis, I think they're factors which you really can't overlook, and also throwing Mal Meninga, let me not forget Mal Meninga, you know, and Paul Hoff, who I thought was by far their best player on the field, even though he only played only a certain part of the game.
In your dressing room before the game, so the half an hour before, was there excitement, was there emotion, or was it very quiet?
There was. I think our preparation was spot on, Paul. You know,
You can't blame that, mate, because the
preparation-
first 20 minutes I thought that New South Wales were outstanding. It was just a bit of bad luck.
Yeah, but
there was, listen, there was a point.
hang on.
There was a point 20 minutes into that second half when New South Wales, after throwing everything at them, 3 or 4 tries stopped by Hoff, there was a point where they just seemed to stop. And they couldn't go any further, as though they said, we've thrown everything at them and nothing's happened. Look, you can't blame pre-game motivation. You can blame the extent to which the captain or some senior blokes out there on the field midway through that second half didn't see this freeze on the faces and say, come on, keep going. We seem to stop.
We never stopped, Roy, for 1 minute. I mean, if you have a look at the statistics and you have a good look at them, I mean, the penalties well and truly outweighed the New South Wales side. The time of possession in the second half well and truly outweighed the New South Wales possession. Now, come on, all the energies were taken in the very first half. It was played at a cracker pace the first 40 minutes. There was hardly any fuel left in either side, yet they had the majority of the ball, and it's easier to play football when you got the ball, when you are defending. And also they had Lake Park supporters voicing their support afterwards, Roy. I mean, that's very hard.
Can I just ask one thing? On what Roy was saying, in fact, I thought he was going to go off the pace then, but you were saying exactly what I was about to. There was a time when the mood of the match changed. Now, New South Wales made so many busts wide early. You made a lot of breaks wide early, and there was a lot of razzle-dazzle, right? When that didn't come up trumps, through some outstanding defence from Queensland, you play any other side, you probably lead 18 points to 0 and it's all over, but you didn't. When that didn't come up trumps, there seemed to be the situation of the fact that New South Wales hadn't done the hard yakka and laid a foundation through the forwards before they did that, and sure, it may have been just because of the way the game panned out that you did get the ball out wide and were making busts, but Queensland turned around when they got possession, they played it very simple, hit it up through the forwards and laid a foundation.
Yep, I'm not arguing that at all, John.
Right, Ben.
I want to say this, Mum, forgive me for saying this, but do you reckon there was enough mongrel, enough hunger in your forwards? Just let me say, to back up my point, on a numerous amount of occasions, the guys would play the ball, New South Wales guys, they'd play the ball and they'd shoot off, they'd turn their back and off they'd go. Someone else would take the ball up. Every time I saw Larson or Bella play the ball, they'd play it, they'd come back, they'd want to back up all the time. They were intense, they were hungry, they had a lot of mongrel in them. Our blokes just seemed to say, well, time out, I didn't get through the first line of defence, I'll come in 2 or 3 times, 2 or 3 rucks later on. That was the difference to me around the ruck area.
Yeah, you probably, you know, you're probably right to an extent there, Steve, but something Paul Siren said on before we came on, you know, it was only 6-4, the possession, the ball possession Queensland had to New South Wales.
65 to 35%, I think, in the second half.
That'd be close to spot on, actually. 65% of the ball in the second half compared to 35% of the ball. It was only 6-4. Let me tell you, if each and every one of those players had a second shot at those blokes, everyone is dead set. Their ego has been smashed. Their pride's been taken away from them. I mean, just the fact to get out in that field again, to have another shot at those guys in front of our own...
Well, if I was to select them, you'll all get a second shot.
And we did want to see changes, obviously, Benny?
I don't think there's, you know, I mean, I'm not here to... I'm not in a position to...
He's saying there should be one change.
I don't think that... I know for a fact... Steve, I know for a fact that I reckon that side that we had, that 17 that we had, is well and truly capable of taking out this series still.
And remember, we did win the series last year. We're back with more of Ben Elias, who obviously is not all that happy at the moment. Very soon.